Hello, my name is Joshua Lister, and today we will be covering the Sagittari Trials, which is a game I've been updating and working on since the last assignment. So the first thing we'll be entering is the main menu blueprint. Now you can immediately see that we've rendered the Colosseum into the background, and that we've got an exit button and a play button. And these will take you either out of the level or into the level, and on death you will be returned to this menu regardless. So in the blueprint you can see a simple open level and a quick game blueprint setup, which we used for the main menu. The next thing we're going to look at is the UMG. Now we've set the players and the enemies to have health, so to represent our health I've drawn an image in Photoshop, and we're using a standard health bar or a progress bar behind the teeth of the image, which is a PNG, so it changes colour from a red into a black and gets darker as you take damage, and it is represented whilst you're taking damage until it gets black and then you die.
Is open the third person character blueprint. Now in this blueprint we have done a few things before, and a bit of this code is from previously, though not all of it was working, and the animation blending and the orientation was not working. So we've gone ahead and fixed that, and we've slightly changed the spawn projectile. Now with this projectile it'll play a sound which is a bow and arrow, so it creates a bow sound effect after it's spawned the projectile. Now there's a delay on the projectile, which means that you can't spam the arrow, meaning that the enemies are somewhat harder. So the next thing we'll look at is the player aiming and orientation. Now as you can see we have toggle ADS, start ADS and stop ADS. Now this is some variables from the previous handing, and in this what we do is we assign security to the server and make sure that everyone is following protocol, and if not it denies access. And as you can see further on in the orientation, what this will do is it will take your camera and it will zoom in based on right clicking in this instance. So here you can see that we have the health bar casting. Now what this does is it takes the widget from the UMG and makes sure it's cast upon the screen. Now I came into a problem here later on, which I just realised, is that in the title menu, without anything referencing this to make it stop, it will carry on through the title menu. So that is something that needs changing. So the next thing we'll be looking at is the health floor and how we get it to affect the character. So at the moment it has a component overlap, and when it overlaps it does 0.1 damage. Now when the damage is set to 1 health max and then it compares the float, if it goes under 0% then it will open the title level, and this title level is essentially the death screen, and if we would like we can add a death screen in between there or an animation. So the next thing we'll look at is hide mesh on camera collision. Now what this does, even though it's a previous blueprint that we have, it's quite useful because whenever we overlap an object, if we would see through the mesh that we are currently in, so the skeletal mesh, then what it will do, it will cast it as invisible, so we see right through it. So you don't have any bugs or problems or any colliding issues. So here you can see more in depth of what we are using with our toggle, stop and start aiming down sights. And this is linked up to the animation graph.
So the next thing we're looking at is the projectile blueprint. Now in this projectile blueprint we have a simple physics collision, and on event hit it does impulse, and it uses locations to change the location to make it a bit more forward, as we had problems with it colliding before. And then after it is finished, it will delete the actor. The next thing we'll be checking is the AI. So here you can see we have a simple movement blueprint based on pawn sensing. So when it senses the character in its radius, it will continue to follow that player and chase them. Here you can see that we've been using the AI health. So what we have here is we had previously enemy health, and we tried replicating what we had for the main character, but this didn't work, so we've tried a number of different solutions to this, and I have gone through and checked other guides, and unfortunately I've not been able to find anything, because sometimes it will work under the old enemy health float, but in this instance it wasn't working, so I've had to change it, and at the moment it just destroys on overlap, which is disappointing. Here you can see that I've imported the animation starter pack. Now with this starter pack we have used a few blending using the iron sights and normal idle and the run, and what this does is when the player is engaged within the scene, he can blend between the different poses. So we're just going to look at a couple of textures and materials that we have created for some of the models that we have made for this scene. So as you can see with the arrow, we have just used the simple base colour, and this is because it is going so fast that there would be no need to add any extra polys or anything to this arrow, since it will not be seen by anyone. So the next thing we see is the back piece of the Colosseum. And here you can see the two textures leading to the emissive colour and the base colour, which are the light maps and the base UV colouring and depth. And then we have the normal maps, which you can see at the bottom. So the next thing we can see is the materials. And since this is the material for the main piece that you'll be seeing, we've added more to it. So there's the base colour, the metallic layer, the roughness layer, the emissive colour or the light mapping, and the normal maps. Here you can see that we've changed the light source. Now what I've done is I've given it a reddish tint, I've changed the location, and I have made sure that none of the shadows are overlapping each other, and none of the shadows are affecting any of the scenes, so that when we light it again, nothing will be affected. Here you can see that we have a few effects volumes. So we have the post-process volume and the light mass importance volume. So that when the light is baked onto the scene, that it will be most important in those areas. Now, as you can see the skylight in the scene as well, we have added some atmospheric fog, which I have added not necessarily to the lower parts, but to the higher parts, so there's more of a blur the higher that you look. And we've made the scene red also, with a slightly red tint. In the scene, you have a piece of music by myself and a person called Joe Connolly, who is in the music department of Huddersfield University, and we've worked together a few times before on some music, and we collaborated to create a sinister Colosseum sort of vibe to it. In this scene, I've tried to practice with different tools to get certain material effects. Now, although I don't find all of them convincing and up to standard, it's my first time using these programs and I've been teaching myself them this year, as before this point I was only using Photoshop to make very basic bog standard ones, so this time I am actually retopologizing the mesh in programs such as 3D Coat and then using such to project materials onto. Now, this has been a much better way of doing it, and I'd look forward to see how far I can get with this in the future rather than just using Photoshop.